welcome back to Virtual Shakeup 3.0. I'm super delighted to invite Diane Schwartz, CEO of Ragan Communications, to our program. But before I have Diane tell us more about herself, just a reminder to everybody that there is a poll and Q&A section in the live stream. So not on your homepage, but click on live stream and you can participate and interact. But Diane, welcome.
Thanks, Heather. Good to be here.
Absolutely. I think you and I have known each other for quite some time.
Yeah.
So, but you're new to this role at Ragan. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about the role in Ragan and how you got there? I think it's like a recent 1 year before COVID hit.
Yeah, just about a year. It's been about 2 years. I've been CEO of Ragan Communications, and we're a media and training company for communicators, marketers, wellness professionals worldwide. We have events and subscriptions and membership groups and awards programs and websites and a lot of other things to serve our community. And yeah, I joined after spending a couple decades at another media company where I oversaw PR, marketing, and media brands, and loved the communication space and had this opportunity to join Ragan Communications, and didn't sign up to be CEO during a pandemic, but that's what happened. And it's been an interesting ride so far.
Absolutely. I mean, what was your first reaction when the pandemic hit? Like obviously this is a stupid question. Did you feel prepared to deal with it? But like, what was your reaction?
PG, right? This is PG-13.
Yeah.
It was, it's about crisis management. I mean, definitely no playbook, nothing to reference here except for, experience dealing with crises, common sense, empathy, keeping up with what's going on, in the news. Clearly, we know a lot more than we knew a year ago about this. At the time, we didn't know that this was going to be, nobody knew that we were going to be in it for the long haul, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely seemed like more than a day that this was going to go on. So my reaction was, let's do this. Let's figure this out. We can do it. It's another crisis to figure out. And we serve a unique market that happened to really need Ragan and all the content and networking and other services that we could provide them. So we weren't exactly in the front lines, essential workers, but in some ways we felt like we were, and that really helped fuel us as a company.
Yeah. Well, when I spoke to you, and I even just got goosebumps, like this, the name of the session that we're doing is The Power of Brand and Community. And when you said to me, you already had, before the pandemic, a community that would, as you said, bleed the Ragan blue. Blue is in the logo. So you had built trust. They came to you. But then during this pandemic, they needed you because they didn't know what to do. Like, no one knew what to do, but they're communications professionals, as you said, like internal, external communication. So you were helping them. And it was such a critical, vital role you've played. Like, can you tell us how this community evolved and now how do you see it moving forward?
Yeah, so we've been around 51 years, and the communicator, especially the internal comms professional, hasn't necessarily had a seat at the table. Even invited into the room, when it comes to the C-suite. And that has changed over the years for sure. When the pandemic hit, it still is about employees and taking care of your own, and a real recognition of the importance of employee communication. So the communicator, actually internal or PR and external comms, were the gatekeepers of all the information. And there was a lot of information to disseminate. And let's not forget, there were other crises that we've been dealing with as well. Social justice issues, somewhat related to the crisis, political unrest. So these multitude of crises, one piling up on the other, put us in a position of, we were already experienced in helping communicators through this. And we helped during their isolation to connect them with other communicators. We gave them the tools and the, even the confidence, to be a strategic, help to the CEO. And so it's been amazing to see what communicators have done for their organizations and for the managers to help their teams. I mean, it's a very complex, a lot of people think communications or PR is just like media relations, but it is communicating with all stakeholders. And there's been no stakeholder more important from our point of view than the employee. And who better than the internal comms professional to help steer the company?
So you really can say that you elevated the role, gave it a seat at the table, and you elevated individual people within their careers. I mean, that's powerful stuff. With that, have you found, you did live events, but obviously you're now doing virtual, you were connecting. Have you found something new in your approach in terms of the engagement and the ways you've been able to do that because of not being able to be in person?
We had always had a hybrid approach so there were some advantages we had as a company. We were, about half of our employees had been remote to begin with. Our live events were always streamed, we live streamed our events. So we had a platform and a community that understood that they could either attend our event, that even though it was at Disney World, they could, I don't know why they wouldn't go to Disney World, but, they would attend it from their home in Ohio, or they could come, to our event. So we had that technology and that platform in place. So we immediately moved to virtual. We made the call like March 15th to take all of our we do about 15 live events a year, take the rest of them for the rest of the year, which is only the beginning of the year, right? To move them all to virtual. We made that call right away. So that helped us. Then, with sponsors, I think we all realize, and those that are watching this realize, that sponsors really need us right now in a lot of different ways, aside from being a part of our events, but just reaching our audience because they couldn't go to the live events to have those conversations. So that's been beneficial for us as well. But we immediately made the call, and we just, I guess, to use the cliche, we leaned into it and didn't think, oh, maybe events will come back this year. We just, but it's hard, it's harder from a business standpoint. It's like pennies to dollars in terms of what you can charge, ticket wise. So our pricing strategy, a lot of experimentation. I would say even now we're experimenting, like with every event, with different things, different variables.
So I do want to touch on the hybrid side because our audience has like tons of questions. Like, again, speaking to event organizers every day, this hybrid question is just still in that unknown territory. But you bring up something about sponsors needing you. And did your team take the approach of they need you not only to give them this access, but they need you to help them understand how to deal with this themselves, to continue their sales and their pipeline development and all of that. But now it's 100% virtual.
For sure. I think they needed to be visible, not being in front of their customers' meetings and especially like even getting, setting up meetings. I think people have been exhausted and they don't want to they don't take another call. So it's very efficient to hold a conference for your sponsors where they can obviously meet a lot of their customers. We've used LinkedIn private groups during our conferences, which has been a great way to connect our sponsors with our attendees. And we've been doing some other things before and after the events for our sponsors. But they certainly see the value of working with media brands to keep their name out there, to learn. We're also, And we may touch on this later, but another advantage that we've had is we've been covering the digital workspace for a pretty long time. But now that's like a real thing, beyond the internet, that, now there's all the collaboration tools and all the, digital workplace tools. So we're another place for them, get new customers through our digital workplace products.
That's actually, I don't know if you saw one of the sessions earlier about the future of work, the digital workplace. Again, COVID has changed it forever. Many companies aren't going to go back to an office, period, let alone some that'll say 50%. So what's the opportunity for the events to actually come in there and start serving in connecting sponsors with, suppliers with their prospective buyers? So that's actually quite interesting. So the other thing I love about Ragan is this breadth of offering you have, this just unbelievable multi-channel approach. Yes, you have live events, but you have community, you have awards, you have, I have it written down here, consulting,
I hire
training.
You to be our PR rep.
But you're like you're delivering value across all of these different channels. Now, one is, do you have plans to add more to that? And two, how do you handle that from an organizational standpoint? Like sales, do they sell everything? Or do you have them siloed and selling certain products versus others?
We'll definitely be expanding and acquiring. We launched in the workplace wellness space. So separate from digital workplace, we launched Workplace Wellness Insider last fall. And that was a brand for HR, wellness, and communications professionals. So the intersection of those three disciplines within an organization that is spending their time on employee wellness issues. So it's through a business lens, but everything from mental health to financial health of their employees to social well-being and diversity and inclusion. And that is adjacent to the communication space that we had been serving. So that's a new brand. But it really, the nexus of it all is content. Mm-hmm. So I would say we're somewhat agnostic about the platform. It's really about the content that we provide our audience. And we know that someone who attends a webinar is going to be a different person that comes to our website and reads our content, or that is a member of our leadership council. So it begins with the content and then serving our customers in any way that they want to consume it. So that's how we look at it. We look at it first through a content lens. And then the sales is divided. We have someone who sells sponsorships and advertising, and then we have a separate department that sells membership in our councils.
Okay. Well, right. Well, they're actually kind of different, right? So membership in your councils is your reader, your audience, exactly. And it's a very different sale than selling to sponsors. That's awesome, and the content part's so key. Mm-hmm. It's domain expertise. It's that trusted voice of the industry. And actually, you, again, love Ragan. They have you, who you spent so many years and such a well-known name on the business side. And you then have that complemented from the editorial content side. I mean, it's a total winning equation. What was your aha moment? Like if in, with the business, or maybe it's you, but this pandemic, like, so many people found out things about themselves or their business or their that they just never would have figured out had this not happened.
Well, when I came to Ragan, when the baton was passed to me by Mark Ragan, who had run the company for decades, I knew that I was coming in to transform the business. I thought it was going to be a lot slower of a process. And so in some ways, the pandemic was an opening. It's that for the aha moment, it's that, silver lining of, okay, we definitely are going through some changes. So let's go through a lot of changes now and make it happen and not go back. Everybody, I'm sure others today and tomorrow during your conference are going to be talking about accelerating change, the pandemic accelerated change. I do think that's true for those who were not nervous about, getting in the driver's seat and just keeping their foot on the gas. And so the aha moment was, this really is an opening to make the changes that we need, to look at our company as digital first. And to, the aha moment about it's a people-driven business. People in our company, the employees, that was first and foremost. And the people, not the products, when it comes to our decisions. So really talking to our customers and hearing from them how much they needed us. And for me, new to the company, it was like, wow, our community loves us. And that helped me sleep at night.
Yep. Now, one is the care about your employees first. I think it was Richard Branson, or it was either Elon Musk or Richard Branson, that says that, like, you have to care about your employees first. The customer comes second, because if your employees aren't happy, your customers aren't going to be happy. So that's actually interesting.
And it's hard. Employee morale and employee culture is so difficult in a remote environment. It's the hardest thing right now, to keep everyone happy.
So
content.
Do you see employees coming back? Are you, like, when do you guys plan to go back to the office?
We have a Chicago office, and about half of our employees are there. And it has been open, and a few people have gone in and out as they'd like. Some people need space, to go to. So, but as far as formally reopening, we're looking at the fall for a slow opening, and then next year being fully open.
Great.
Hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah, no, for sure. But again, positive thinking manifests into positive outcomes. Okay. So just quickly, I know, because Ralph's coming on, we have a poll that we want to share, but with the hybrid of, like, how do you see your hybrid events when you start doing in person again? How are you going to do hybrid?
I don't think events will ever be the same. Maybe it's like the trade show, where a lot of people go to trade shows for, the marketplace and to network, recognizing that attendees now say, I can learn from my office, from my home office, or I don't need to get on a plane or a train to attend a conference. So events, I see us having more virtual events than we had before the pandemic, not as many as we have right now. All of our events will continue to we'll stream them live. And our live events will be designed probably more for networking and collaborating with the other attendees, and just the less sitting in a room looking at the, slides, PowerPoint slides.
Yeah, I've been hearing this so much. This whole networking and curated networking, and whether it's one-to-one or one-to-few is really going to be the center of the value proposition for in-person. It's not butts in seats; it's the amount of engagements and collaboration. So, right. and welcome, Ralph. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say? What was your last comment there?
Butts out of seats.
Butts out. Right, exactly. Yeah. Hi, Ralph.
Hi. Well, what a great session. It's refreshing to hear somebody who's always embraced live streaming. Obviously, music to my ears. We had a poll running during your session, and we were asking, how would you describe your audience's loyalty to your brand? And a lot of people said they like us, but we could do better. I just wondered what your thoughts about that. Is that kind of how a lot of your clients and kind of people that feel? And what could people do better to increase loyalty?
That's it's a tough one. It's so much of it is about trust in the brand. So we can't have a meeting one day and say, people need to trust us more, than the next day people try. It's over time. And it's incumbent on all employees to live by that mission, right? Because talking to a customer service rep or somebody else, that could impact the brand greatly, or an employee that's not happy. So I believe that trust in the brand, and then they'll follow you wherever, through a pandemic and then outside the pandemic, if you have their trust. So deliver on what you promise.
Good answer. I was interested in whether you look at kind of psychological behavior. I know there's a name for this, behavioral science. Yeah. And in the UK, we've even had things like the government at one point had a nudge unit to try and kind of just tip the balance of public opinion. I have to say, I think Facebook and Cambridge Analytica probably did a much better job, but still, you've got to give the British government some credit for trying. Does that come into play as well in this kind of digital world, trying to just encourage people to think a certain way, or do you think that doesn't really work?
Well, when it comes to psychographic data and just understanding our customer, that is that's a tall order, one that we are dedicating a lot of this year toward is understanding our customers more. But that's key, right? Segmenting your marketing and curating your content for what the customers want. We certainly do that in our leadership councils, where we have smaller groups and we can really curate, because I think it's about personalization in the future and people designing their experience, whether it's at an event or on your website, or really just down to, a newsletter that they get. It's all about them.
Yeah. Finding your tribe. I'm going to go to a few of the audience questions. So the top one here, do you think that people get virtual event fatigue, and what can we do to make it more engaging and entertaining? I think to both of you, really. I'm all ears.
Definitely. We're all really tired of looking at a screen. There's no doubt about it. And it's a trade-off, because you're getting information, you're being able to connect. So it's not like it's evil or anything. But when it comes to virtual events, it depends on your audience, whether they have an appetite for going to a 7-hour conference versus chopping that up into 3 days, 2.5 hours each. A lot, we find people will register for the conference and then just watch it on demand, at their leisure. So again, any way that they want it, we're fine with that. But I think you've got to test it with your audience, and definitely ask your audience what engineers want versus what communicators want versus doctors. It's all going to be different.
Well, it's interesting you talk about watching content back on demand. So all of these sessions will be made available on demand. Some of them are already there. You just go into the schedule tab, click past content, and then click on the one that you want. But moving on with the audience questions, do you see any tendency in changing the way content will be delivered at events in 2021 and into next year? Are we going to do something completely different?
Yes, but if I know for sure that I don't know anything for sure right now, but it's definitely going to be different. And, I was saying before, our events are going to be, there's going to be a lot of choice, I believe. I mean, not too much choice, but people coming to live events, it's just going to be less about the sessions and they'll be learning in the hallways and through networking. That's another way of learning. There's nothing wrong with that. And then, the content and the deep dives, I think a lot of that can be digital, virtual.
Yeah, we're a big fan of virtual and digital as well. Well, that's all we've got time for. Diane, will you be on the platform if people want to connect with you, Umbrella? Will they be able to do that?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for taking part. Thank you, Heather, as always. I'm going to move on and just tell you a little bit about what's coming up next. So we've got Jim Louderback from VidCon. So for anybody who is into YouTube or creating videos, which I am, and most of my team are, VidCon was really a mainstay of that market if you wanted to go to an event. It's now owned by Viacom, and Heather's going to be introducing him. I also just want to remind you how to use the platform a little bit. So we'll just use my magic screen here. So basically over on the left-hand side, you'll find all of the areas if you want to connect with people, for example, if you want to look at some of the partners. But the main thing that I was just talking about was video on demand. So you'll see that Brella, this is in my time zone in the UK, but it's showing me what's happening now and on. But if I want to go back in time and look at some of the videos that have already happened, for example, Alison's talk from Forbes, I can just go into the schedule and I can watch it on demand. So if you want to watch any of the sessions that have happened already, that's how you'll find them. We'll be back in about 4 minutes with Jim from VidCon.